Assalamualaikum and good day. Today's chapter is about worker stress, negative employee attitudes and behavior. The learning objective of this chapters is student can learn the definition of stress, can be able to name common stresses, learn the common consequences of stress, understand the effect of stress on behavior, learn ways to reduce stress, and learn how stress can at times result in workplace violence. In this slide, you can see some of the stress terms. Okay, so the first one is stress. Stress is the psychological and physical reaction to certain life events or situations. Second one is stressor. So stressor is an environmental event that is perceived by an individual to be threatening the life event that causes stress. The third one is strain, is the consequences of stress. And the last one is worker stress. So what is worker stress? Worker stress is involves the physiological or psychological reactions to events that are perceived to be threatening or taxing. And negative stress or distress can cause stress-related illness and can affect absenteeism, turnover, and also the work performance. Type of stress divided into two types. The first one is eustress. This eustress is stress that converted to positive energy and desirable outcome of stress, motivational result, and optimal level of arousal. And the second one is distress. So this distress is the negative outcome, and it will result in emotional and physical illness. Okay, so next is what are the sources of worker stress? So the first one is the situational stress. So this great deal of worker stress is caused by stressor in the environment of the work organization. So the situational stress is arising from certain condition that exist in the environment or the worker's personal life. And some of this organizational stress is caused by the work tasks themselves. So the physical and psychological demands of performing a job. So the two types of situational stress is work task and work role stressor. The example of work task stressor are, first one is work overload. So this will result when the job requires excessive work speed, output, and also concentration. And the second one is underutilization. If work overload can cause stress, but having too little to do, underutilization also can be stressful. So underutilization may also occur when workers feel that the job doesn't use their work-related knowledge, skill, abilities, or when jobs are boring or monotonous. The example of work role stressor, such as first is job ambiguity. So a potential source of work role stress in terms of job ambiguity, which can occur when aspects of a job, such as task and requirement, are not clearly outlined. Second one is lack of control. So lack of control is a feeling of having little input or effect on the job or work environment. The third one is physical work condition. So in this physical work condition, including the extreme temperature, loud noises, crowding, poor lighting, and also ventilation. And the last one is interpersonal stress. This interpersonal stress which result from difficulties dealing with others, such as with co-workers or your partner and customer and also supervisor in the workplace. Another example of work role stressor is emotional labor. So emotional labor, which involves the demands of regulating and controlling emotions in the workplace. This emotional labor can cause workers to become dissatisfied about their jobs and also reduce job satisfaction and lead to frequent absenteeism and also turnover. Another one is harassment, including sexual harassment and harassment due to group membership, like the gender, race, sexual orientation, and being singled out by a co-worker or supervisor. Next is organizational change. So this is including merger, change in work technology, and personal or managerial changes. And the last one is work-family conflict. So this will result from efforts to balance competing demands of work and also family. This table shows the characteristic of job that cause worker stress, like the work overload, underutilization, dangerous work condition, decision making, lack of support from supervisor, and also lack of control over the work situation. Another sources of worker stress is individual or dispositional stressor. So although a great deal of worker stress is created by factors in the organization of job and work tasks, some is caused by characteristic of the workers themselves. So this is include, first one is the type A behavior pattern. So this is a personality characterized by excessive drive, competitiveness, impatience, and also hostility. The second one is susceptibility to stress versus hardiness. So here is the condition when the notion that some people may be more resistant to the health damaging effect of stress. And the last one is self-efficacy. This is an individual's belief in his or her abilities to engage in courses of action that will lead to desired outcome. This table shows us the popular self-report instrument that has been designed to assess type A behavior, which is the Jenkins Activity Survey or JAS, and the Framingham Type A Scale or FTAS. So this is, if you can see, the example of some of the type of question that will be asked using the FTAS and JAS. And the affirmative answer to this question indicate possession of the type A behavior pattern. There have been a number of approaches to measuring stress. So this is the example. First one is physiological measures of stress. This is include blood pressure monitoring, EKG, this is electrocardiogram, this is for monitoring the heart rate, or blood test for monitoring level of certain hormones, which is the cortisol, and also cholesterol. Okay, so there are difficulties also and some problem for using such a physiological indicator of stress within so is the amount of variation that can occur from hour to hour, day to day, or person to person. And another one when we want to measure the stress based on the physiological measurement, so there are have to get the medical personnel needed to administer the such measure. The second type of measurement is based on self-report assessment of stress. So this is include the report about organizational conditions and also reports about psychological or physical states. Okay, so in this report on organizational condition, okay, so typically contain a item that asks about facet of the job, such as autonomy, feedback, task identity, task significance, skill variety, complexity, dealing with others, ambiguity, and also the workload. Meanwhile, for self-report measure of psychological or physical stress, this is include the stress diagnostic survey, the occupational stress indicator, and also the job stress survey. Another measurement of work stress is measurement of stressful life events. So as was mentioned earlier, situational stress in one area of an individual life, such as the home or school, also can affect stress level at work. So particularly important is the worker's experience of traumatic or stressful life events, which include negative events such as the death of spouse or loved one, divorce or separation, major illness, financial or legal troubles, as well as positive events such as marriage, the birth of child, and vacation. So this approach to measuring stress assumes that such events can bring on stress-related illness and may impair job performance. So one measure is the social adjustment rating scale. So this is a checklist where individuals total the numerical stress severity scores associated with significant life events experienced in the past year. And Bhagat in 1983 also suggests that persons with high personal stress indexes perform more poorly, have higher absenteeism, and also change jobs more frequently. Another measurement of worker stress is person environment fit or PE fit. So this is refers to the match between a worker's abilities, needs and values, and organizational demands, rewards and values. This PE fit is positively related to organizational commitment and negatively related to turnover. So this measurement of PE fit involves assessing worker skills and abilities along with the job demands and features of the work environment. What is the effect of worker stress? So the stress will related to illness include the ulcers, colitis, high blood pressure, heart disease, and migraine or headache. The stress also can worsen the common colds and infection. This figure shows the relationship between performance and stress. The effect of work stress on job performance might also be moderated by other variables. For example, one study showed that the effect of stress on the job performance of nurses was moderated by feeling of depression. So that is, if the work stress caused the nurses to be depressed, and the depression lead to decreased quality of patient care and problems with relationship with co-workers. And if stress is caused by an inability to get along with a certain co-workers, an employee may try to cope with this situation by avoiding all interaction with the individual. Okay, so this avoidance strategy may impair the employee's job performance if the co-workers has some valuable information that the employee needs to perform his or her job. So in this case, it is not the stress that is causing poor job performance, but the coping strategy. And another research also shows that a great deal of evidence suggests that work stress can lead to increased turnover and absenteeism. Gupta and Beer in 1979 also found that this to be true for a variety of occupations in 5 organizations. Another study also concluded that it was a combination of high level of work stress and low level of organizational commitment that predicted voluntary turnover rates for workers in a food processing company. So further, if stress levels are to blame for certain illness, it is a given that stress must be responsible for some absenteeism and some turnover caused by disabling illness. Next is job burnout. This is a syndrome resulting from prolonged exposure to work stress that leads to withdrawal from the organization. So burnout is especially high in human service profession, and burnout occurs in 3 phases. First, emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, and feelings of low personal accomplishment. This is the sample item from the Maslow burnout inventory. So this is they do a survey with the objective is to discover how various persons in the human services or helping professions view their jobs and the people with whom they work closely. Here we can see the effect of noise on health, which is the hearing loss, increased blood pressure, and also more frequent illness. The effect of noise on performance affects quality more than quantity, decrease performance on cognitive tasks, and decrease the job satisfaction. Meanwhile, the effect of noise on behavior, such as narrow focus, less interest, decreased eye contact, and increase the rate of walking. The tremendous variety of strategies and techniques designed to cope with work stress can all be categorized into 2 general approaches. The first one is individual strategies and organizational strategies. So individual coping strategies are behavioral or cognitive efforts made in an attempt to manage internal demands and conflicts that have exceeded an individual usual coping resources. So this such as the exercise, mediation, cognitive restructuring that can be used to deal with work stress. So these individual coping strategies is more efficient to work methods, including time management, and also can be used although their success depends on individual commitment. And also vacation time and voluntary absences may also be used to reduce the stress. So although dismissed work may increase stress upon the employee's return to. Individual coping strategies are steps that workers themselves can take to alleviate personal stress. Meanwhile, for organizational coping strategies are the steps that organization can take to try to reduce stress level in the organization for all or most employees. So these strategies include improving person job fit and employee training and orientation, increase employee sense of control, eliminating punitive management, and providing a supportive work environment and improving organizational communication. In the previous chapter, we saw how individual differences in positive affectivity had a favorable impact on job satisfaction and other work outcomes, and that workers with negative affectivity tended to have a low level of satisfaction. So what are the relationship between negative affectivity, worker stress, and undesirable work outcome? So there are mixed evidence about how negative affectivity influences perceived stress However, it seems that individuals prone to negative emotions do indeed perceive that they have more stress on their job. So beyond the role of negative emotions, so what are some negative employee behavior that are a major concern to organization? So example is counterproductive work behavior. So this is are deviant negative behavior that are harmful to an organization and its workers. Meta-analysis suggests that CWBs are more prevalent in younger employees and those with lower job satisfaction. And these CWBs and workplace aggressions and violence are linked to trait negative affectivity, anger, and other personality variables. And the incidence of CWBs is negatively related to the incidence of organizational citizenship behavior. Okay, another negative employee attitude is alcohol and drug use in the workplace. So this is related to workplace accident, decreased productivity. It will also increase the absenteeism and turnover, and it will cost billions of dollars annually. So the workers who report problems with alcohol or drug have greater job instability and lower job satisfaction. So employee assistance program involve counseling that is provided for a variety of worker problems, particularly this drug and alcohol abuse. This is OSHA noise limit for some condition, and there is house of exposure and maximum decibel for certain condition. Like this one for 8 hours is the maximum decibel is 90. This is for city traffic. 4 hours of exposure is 95. This is for food blender and etc. So here you can see some action that can be done to reduce the noise, like to change the environment, reduce noise reaching employee, so using the earplug, and reduce noise emitted. For temperature, body reduce heat by radiation and evaporation. Meanwhile, for body increases heat by constricting blood vessels. The effective temperature is air temperature, humidity, airflow, and temperature of objects in the environment. The effect of temperature will depend on temperature itself, the task type, and then the workload, amount of exposure, and also the rest period. About 25% of employees work evening or night shift. This shift work can disrupt circadian rhythm. The factors affecting impact of shift work is uniqueness of shift, fixed versus rotating shift, frequency of rotation, direction of rotation, and individual differences. Is it the night people or morning people? Okay, so the consequences of stress. Okay, the first one is to the organizational. It will affect the job performance, burnout, absenteeism, turnover, drug or alcohol abuse, and also healthcare costs. Okay, this is the signs of burnout. So the less energy, lower productivity, being late to work, complaining and negativity, decreased concentration, forgetfulness, and so on. Meanwhile, the consequences of stress to the personnel, they are divided into three. First one is psychological, is depression, anxiety, anger, sleep problem, and for physical is illness, headache, joint pain, and last one is behavior, like smoking, drinking, also drug abuse. How you can manage your stress? So to reduce your stress, you can do the exercise, diet, and louder with your friends, and then smoking reduction, sleep well, and self-empowerment, and also coping skills. Okay, how to manage stress during and after the stress. So you can do the relaxation technique like abdominal breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, meditation, and last one is your time management. This slide shows the statistic and type of workplace violence. So homicide reason for 12% of workplace fatalities, 1% of employees annually victims of workplace violence, and this rate of workplace violence has been declining since 1993. Meanwhile, for types of workplace violence is homicides during commission of crime, homicide of a law enforcement officer, acts of vengeance against employee, which is the committed by current employee, former employees, domestic violence, and others. How to reduce the workplace violence? So by security measures, better employee screening methods, and increased management awareness. Okay, so that's all for this chapter, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.